Hey everyone, TimaeuSS here, and welcome to another Honkai Star Rail video. So we have something very special today. It's the East versus the West. The CM Bro, that's right. The CM Bros versus their global counterparts in player as well as character usage for Honkai Star Rail version 1.2, the last Memory of Chaos, before we go into version 1.3. And this is based on player submitted data for the CN side as well as API scraping for the global side, looking at 8,594 players that cleared Memory of Chaos stage 6 to 10, and this is on the Prydwen site, which I'll leave a link down below. So you're gonna see a lot of similarities, and the difference, okay, because the percentage is not gonna make sense for you if I don't explain this. The difference is the ownership rate. It cannot be obtained for the global side. For CN, they can because it's a very extensive survey that they actually complete, and they have about 12,000 people doing the survey on NGA, which is their CN forum, right? And they submitted it so you can see the ownership stats, how many people that own, for example, Locha, and how many people out of the owners of Locha actually use them. So right off the bat, I think it's very safe to say the winners of this entire patch, and actually Honkai Star Rail so far, is going to be Locha. There are lots of hypercarry options that are available, and you pick your poison, but Locha is hands down the best unit. You can see it's got the highest usage stats right just behind the 4-star Ting, because most people have Ting and they use them, but for limited 4-star, and this is irrelevant of the ownership rate again because this is the global stats, Locha sits at the very top end. Yes, S+ on all categories on the Prydwen tier list. 65.54%. And for the CM Bros, 99.6%. That means out of 1,000 people, only 4 people is not using Locha. Probably because they just pulled Locha, don't have the materials. It makes sense. Locha is so damn strong in Memory Chaos. You either run him as a solo sustain for the second half or the first half, and he is SP positive. That means he can generate skill points, auto attack every single turn, and still is able to heal your teammates and have that emergency heal available. On top of that, he dispels the debuffs on your team and eliminates any sort of annoying buffs such as the revive on the enemy team. So hands down, Locha is sitting at the top. No disagreement there. Now, if we take a look at the next one, so we talked about Ting Wing being the best support currently for 4 stars, but the Silver Wolf is the second highest in terms of usage. If we look at the CN stat, Silver Wolf is very high, 79.2%, okay? But this is where things look a bit different, okay? If we take a look at Silver Wolf, 80%, pretty much 80% high ownership usage stat on CN, it really is higher than everyone else, right? Jingyuan, Kafka, Seele, and all that. But for global, it's massively ahead in comparison to the rest. So because I have to stress this one more time, the ownership rate cannot be obtained for the global side. It's more of a big picture versus who has Silver Wolf and who is using Silver Wolf. So looking at that, having supports are more used versus the heavy DPS, because for a lot of DPS, honestly, what is the big difference if you put in Kafka and you put Blade in, right? For AoE, they're probably going to do similar damage at E0. Now, supports are very rare to come by, and that's why in the usage stats, if you have the supports, you're definitely going to use them. Whereas for the hypercarries, there are lots of variations. And you can see here the hypercarries, for CN's very interesting. 79.2% of Jingyuan. That means most people that have Jingyuan use Jingyuan versus the other two that are less in terms of the usage stats. But Blade, the hypercarry Blade, is so popular in CN that a lot of people actually own Blade. 5,700 versus Kafka. More people own Blade than Kafka, and of course a lot of people own Jingyuan and a lot of people own Seele. But you can see that Jingyuan enjoyers in CN gets a whopping 79.2% usage stat versus Jingyuan in global is the lowest hypercarry at 35.9%. So it's so cool to see that the CM bros enjoy Jingyuan a bit more, and I mean, it makes sense because a lot of them skipped Seele and went for Jingyuan, right? So I would see the general, the CN Shanzhou Luofu general, enjoy a lot more usage on their side. It's perfectly fair. Blade, though, for the global side, did not get that much love in comparison to the CN side. So yeah, maybe there are husbando CN character lovers there, and it does definitely show. Looking at the other supports, the non-limited 5 stars, Bailu sitting at the very top, and here as well, followed up by Bronya. So this is the exact same, but Gepard, 75% for the CN side. So 3/4 of the people that own Gepi will use him. 39.17 on the global side. So again, sitting very high in the top 3, right? In the top 3. And unfortunately, not everyone uses Himeko, Yanking, and Welt. That reflects the same here as well for the CN side. Now, what is very cool to see is that Tingyun is at the very top, but a lot of love has been shown for Pela and Asta. And from the CN side, Asta has a whopping 50% usage as a support. That is quite high. That is quite high because we at the very top is Tingyun and then Asta, and then it just falls very sharply into Pela only sitting at 30% and Yukong sitting at 16.1. So wow, the support usage here is quite different versus CN side. And Natasha is not used much either at 44.9%, and here it's even higher. So you can see CN stats should be usually higher because it's who owns them and who uses them. But Natasha, so I would say the global stats are looking at more free-to-play friendly options, because Natasha, of course, if you have Bailu and Luocha or Bailu and Gepard, you probably are not using Natasha, right? So here, Natasha is definitely not high on the list. But everything else looks pretty similar. And I'll be very interested to see when Danghang and Fushuan gets released and how that impacts the meta. But overall, what we can draw conclusion-wise is hypercarry usage is a variable across the two regions. Seele sitting at the top for global, followed by Kafka. Quite a big discrepancy between the two. But whereas for CN bros, Blade dominates, followed by Jingyuan. So almost two polar opposites in terms of what they use, right? Blade and Jingyuan versus the Kafka Seele combo for global. And what we could all agree on, though, is for both the East and the West, Luocha is the king. Luocha is the king, followed by Silver Wolf sitting at the optimal support. But for the East side, Bronya and Tingyun actually has a higher usage than Silver Wolf. Whereas for the West, you're going to look at the more Tingyun and Bronya supports over Silver Wolf that they may have skipped for Kafka mommy. Oh, and anyhow, let me know if you enjoyed these type of content. I'll try to bring more CN stuff to you guys. It's all very interesting to see how they tackle the meta versus us. And yeah, it's TimaeuSS here, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye now.